All right, I think we're streaming. I think we're good to go. We are live for the first live stream in a week, right? Or did I not do last week? I can't remember anymore. But thanks for joining me, guys. Corey Draper here. Thanks for joining me with the Play Reaction live stream. We're going to be doing this every Wednesday at 9 p.m. unless I change it. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at the Play Reaction, so you can get a regular schedule of the live streams as they happen. And if I have to cancel last minute or postpone or change the time, you will be in the know if you just follow me on Twitter at the Play Reaction. And but yeah, we're gonna try to keep this regular. We're gonna try to keep this a regular thing. I hear the Buck What You Heard does live streams every Wednesday at 10 p.m. So consider this a tent pole, prop language. Lewis, what's up, man? Thanks for joining. Yeah, just to give everybody who is watching this on replay, or if this is your first time watching, basically what these live streams are just us talking about Bucs football. It's going to be loose. I have random things that I may want to bring up, but honestly, I want this to be a roundtable of conversation, of Bucs conversation. So you guys in the chat room, you drive this conversation. Anything you want to talk about, whether it's how players are doing, something. Right now we're in Minicamps, which thankfully there's something going on, because soon there's going to be nothing and we're going to be a dark period, and I'm going to be stretching for things to talk about. So this can be anything about Bucs history, any questions you have about me, anything about the Bucs, anything you want to talk about. You guys drive the conversation with these live streams. Rick, how's it going? What's the latest hype and rumors? Dude, are you not paying attention? We have mini camps going on, and so of course there's overblown hype and overblown non-hype, so to speak. Right now, the big hype I'm hearing is Chris Godwin in mini camps. Everybody has just commented on, man, he looks like a man out there. He looks like a wide receiver one out there. And it's interesting to see what they're going to do with him this year, because we still have Deshaun Jackson. I know there's been rumors of possibly trading Djax, but I think that would be dumb because of our wide receiver depth and all the things we could do with Djax, like putting him in the slot while putting Godwin out on the outside. I'm really excited to see it. And I am very much a Godwin fan and cannot wait for him to just have a breakout season. I hope it happens. He was really coming into his own last year. So, yeah, Lewis, you say Godwin's killing it. Yeah, and Rick, you've heard that too. Godwin right now is like my low-key favorite player, just because I'm so excited to see what he gets to do and what he does. Hopefully he has a healthy offseason and he gets to be our wild card. I mean, and watch it. When he blows up, people are going to be like, who is this guy? But we've known since he was drafted, this guy was a huge steal in the draft, and I'm just waiting for him to break out. So I don't know what you guys think about having Djax, but I do think that he and Winston will connect this year a lot more. Now, I know there were some comments, I think earlier today, about how Winston yet again missed Djax on a wide open deep ball. It's the beginning, let's take a deep breath. They're going to have to work on their chemistry. That's one thing they have to work on. But I have a lot of hope, because remember, Mike Evans in the first year with Jameis, they did not connect a whole lot. I think Mike Evans had just like 3 touchdowns. And it took a whole season for them to get it right. And then, boy, did they. Evans had a great comeback year, and he was Evans. So Christian Brown, what's up, man? Our first 5 opponents are the Saints, Eagles, Steelers, Bears, and Falcons. What do you think our record will be after week 5? Christian, that's a great question, because it all has to do with how many of those games is Jameis suspended. There's rumors out there that it's just going to be 1 game. I hope that is the worst case scenario. If you guys saw me, I did a collaboration with Mr. Bucs Nation. If you guys haven't subscribed to him, go ahead and subscribe to him, Mr. Bucs Nation. He's another YouTuber, just pumps out a ridiculous amount of content, both Bucs and regular NFL. He does a great job. But we were talking about this Jameis suspension and just where it could go. And I really hope that worst case scenario it's one game, considering the lack of evidence and the shady evidence that's out there. I do think there will be some sort of suspension just by what the NFL does. But let's say it's one game and he misses that Saints game. Um, it's okay because yeah, it's the Saints, but that will be the first game, so hopefully we will know soon what the suspension is, and Ryan Fitzpatrick can work with the first team. We can game plan around it. I mean, I'm not saying we will beat the Saints, but we would have a better chance beating them then than we would, say, in like week 3 if Jameis got hurt. So, to answer your question, those first 5 games, it's tough. It's brutal. I would hope, worst case, we get out alive 2-3. If we're 2-3, I will still have hope. I hope we're 3-2 or 4-1. If we are, the hype will be real, and I will be just overjoyed and excited, and you guys will see excited Corey for the first time. Well, maybe the second time. If you guys watch my live stream after the Saints win, man, I was so pumped. So, what do you think, Christian? I want to know what do you think those first 5 games, how they'll go. The way I see it is, I'll go ahead and say it. We'll beat the Saints. We'll probably lose to the Eagles, lose to the Steelers, beat the Bears, and beat the Falcons. I'll go ahead and say it there. By the way, sorry if you hear some outside noise, hallway noise. I'm actually at work right now, or at my office. I'm not actually working, but so it's kind of a public space. So there's gonna be some noise going on. Where is Dez going? Who cares where Dez is going, man? Who cares? I don't care. Not the Bucs. We don't need him. I could see Dez going. Whew, man. It would be interesting to see him in Seattle. I think that would be super interesting. I don't see him going anywhere like San Francisco, maybe Arizona. I'm thinking of the West Coast teams. But anyway, those are the first ones that come to my mind. Rick, I also have a feeling that our entire team will be a lot more aggressive and physical this year with the additions of Vea and JPP and Ryan Jensen. I completely agree with you, man. We're going to see a completely different team this year. I solidly believe that the coaching staff, both on the offense and the defense, will game plan differently than we have seen before, and that includes the press coverage or lack thereof on the defense. I'm reading reports that Vernon Hargraves, he is the outside corner, and it's his job to lose. Which, if you guys have been following me at all, that's what I've been saying this whole time. But anyway, when they go to a nickel package, they're saying they're going to then move him inside. And have Carlton Davis on the outside, so he's going to flip-flop. I don't know if that's the best for Vernon, but it will be interesting to see how that goes. Also, with the defensive line that we have now, I mean, that just completely changes how effective this team will be on defense from top to bottom. I also said in that collaboration with Mr. Bucs Nation that the defensive line will make the secondary better. So even with Conti back there, I think and again, what do you guys think? I think our secondary top to bottom will be good. And the offense, man, our offensive line is so much better. I think our offense will be hinging upon the run game, whether or not Rojo and Peyton Barber can get it going. I think Jameis super depends on that run game. And if he's throwing over, 35 times a game, we're in big trouble. So, Rick, I think we should be 4-1 after 5 weeks. Rick, I hope you're right, man. If we're 4-1 after those 5 weeks, this team is legit and we're for real. And if we stay healthy, I mean, the sky's the limit. I think we have on paper a playoff team. And I thought we had that last year, and obviously we ran into some bad luck. If you guys have seen my Murphy's Law video, I think we had a playoff caliber roster. But they just didn't live up to it. And that's even with the problems on defensive line. Think about it, guys. We were 3-7 in one-score games, and that's with us having the last ranked defensive line as far as sacks are concerned. So, Rick, you think our loss will be at the Saints? I mean, that would make sense if Jameis isn't playing. Even if he is playing, I mean, they have a great defense and a great secondary, and Jameis likes to get overhyped, especially the first games of the season. Of course, he did just fine last year against the Bears, but the Bears were not a good team. So, Louis Kappa is the next Ali Marpet. I mean, dude, I hope so. I don't want us to have that ceiling in mind, or maybe not that. I don't want us to have that expectation in mind for Kappa. Yes, he came from a smaller school, But man, Marpet is like once in a generation hit a home run out of the park. Division III player, you just don't see that. So don't expect that from Kappa. If he can become a regular starter, I think that's just fine, and I'll be just happy with Kappa, especially with Jensen beside him and Ali Marpet out there. Well, Jensen won't be beside him because anyway. Obviously, depending on where he goes. Rick, Brenson Buckner has been making his presence known as well. Rick, that's a great point. That's something I did want to talk about is, if you guys have been watching my my live streams, I've been saying the biggest offseason acquisition we have was Brenson Buckner. The biggest offseason acquisition we had was him. And in mini camps, you can't really observe players and draw any conclusions, but you can with the coaching staff. And Brenson Buckner has been everything he's been advertised to be. Just in the videos I've seen, he's just being such a hard ass to his players. I love it. He's going to bring out the nastiness in this defensive line, and I'm so excited to see how it turns out. I honestly think if Brenson Buckner was our defensive line coach last year, we would not be at the bottom in sacks. I think he would have gotten some sacks out of this team, and we would have lived up to our potential. I mean, not that that defensive line was good at all. I mean, they probably still would have been bottom half of the league, but they wouldn't have been last, I don't think. So, Christian Brown, I don't want to be a pessimist, but if we don't get off to a good start in the first 5 weeks, I feel like it could spiral out of control, and this could be another long season. Yeah, Christian, it would. I could see it happening. But I will give you some hope there. If this team goes 1-4 or 2-3 those first 5 games of the season, don't freak out, because remember, this team does have a history of collapsing when things get tough. But under Raheem Morris, under John Gruden even, under Greg Schiano, under Lovie Smith, but not under Dirk Cutter. This team last year, even when it was all over, fought tooth and nail to win every single game, and they just kept coming up short. And until that final last game, I mean, we saw it. They fought to still win, even in a meaningless game. These guys are having fun. These guys love to play football. These guys love to win, and they hate to lose. So if they go 1-4 or 2-3, yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be real tough, and the fire Cutter bells will be ringing in the streets. The fire Mike Smiths. I mean, that's just how we are in Tampa Bay. But don't give up, because remember that 9-7 season, we didn't get off to a really great start, and man, we turned it around. These players, they're too young to know any better, man. They want to win so badly. So there's your hope right there if we start out slow. Mr. Bucs Nation, what's up, James? Checking in from Publix. Nice, dude. He's at work, I guess, pulling up the phone. Shout out Mr. Bucs Nation, guys. Click on his name and subscribe to him if you haven't already, man. He's great Bucs YouTuber and a good friend. So, Christian, you work at Publix too, man. Publix is near and dear to my heart. I live in Georgia, where there's Kroger's everywhere. But man, I lived in St. Petersburg for 8 years, got used to Publix, and there's just nothing like it. I'm glad there's Publix around the corner. So, Christian, let's say worst case scenario, we start out 0-5. Do you think we fire Dirk and Mike Smith in our bye week? No. I do think Dirk and Mike Smith will 100% be in the hot seat, and I would be surprised to see them fired after the season. But the Glazers don't fire coaches in the middle of the season. They've never done it before, and I don't expect it to happen. And I actually like this about them. They wait until the season is over. You just never know. Even if you're out of the playoffs in week 7 or 8, you just wait it out. You see how the players fight for the coaches, and you don't get rid of them. So, yeah, I mean, you saw it with Lovey, you saw it with Schiano and Raheem Morris. I mean, it's just they don't do that. So, if they start out 0-5, man, these videos are going to be so depressing. But we're going to be talking about coaches. We're going to be talking about coaches for a long time. And yeah, Publix is where shopping is a pleasure, not shoppers. But Cutter and Smith should have been fired last January. Rick, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I don't necessarily agree with you either. I'm definitely a wait-and-see kind of guy, if you couldn't tell. And what I will say is these players fought hard for these two coaches, and that says something. They didn't fight hard for Lovie Smith. They didn't fight hard for any of the previous coaches. Now, of course, this is a different roster than those previous coaches, but that is the one thing that's different with this coaching staff so far is that these players are playing for them. So, got to give them that at least. This year will be big, and I'm hopeful that with Todd Monken taking on OC, more OC work and game planning a lot more with Dirk Cutter. I think that'll help the offense, and I'm hoping with the Mike Smith defense, which is predicated on the pass rush, that will be bolstered because of our revamped defensive line. So I have hope. I'm an eternal optimist. Christian, personally, I think we will start 2-3 with victories against the Bears and Falcons. I can see it. Yeah, and 2-3 is okay. With that schedule, 2-3 is just fine, and I think it's surmountable. Of course, it all depends on if we're still fully healthy and how we lose those games and how we win those games, but I think I would be okay with 2-3. I wouldn't be happy, but I'd be okay with it. Lewis, calling it 16-0. Love it, man. There you go. 16-0. Calling it. I know you said JK, but I'm holding you to it. First loss. I'm calling you out, Lewis. Rick, you say 9-7, 10-6. Hey, man, that's playoff worthy. Usually in this division, maybe not, but that I would take 9-7, 10-6, guys. I would take a winning record because that usually means playoffs. And think about this: we've been 10-6 once and 9-7 once since, over the last 9 years, 8 or 9 years, and both times we had a winning record. Both times it was that weird, gross, like tiebreaker situations where we lost out and still didn't go to the playoffs. Very upsetting. Murphy's Law, right? I hear Monken is only calling the first 20 scripted plays. After that, Cutter calls the plays. Yeah, I've heard a lot on that stuff, which I feel like is still hearsay. I think what I've gathered is that Monken is definitely helping with the first 20 scripted plays. So like he is coming up with them, I think, and then Cutter will give insight into that, and they will work together with it. Cutter obviously will be calling those plays, I think. Maybe not, I don't know. But Monken is having a much bigger role, and I think that's a good thing for sure. And Scott Reynolds' Pewter Report made a great point in that last year, we were calling for Monken to take over play calling, but Dirk Cutter, knowing that Gruden was waiting in the wings, probably smartly still held on to it, because if he gave up play calling, what would that have said about himself and his confidence? If he wasn't confident in his own play calling, I think that might have said something to the Glazers. Maybe not. I don't know. But now he is safe again for another year, so he's trying something. So good for him. Christian, then in week 7, we play the Browns, and in week 8, we should play the Bengals. Those are 2 games we absolutely should win with no excuses. Remember, Christian, this is the Buccaneers, and we always lose at least one game we should win, and I am terrified about that Browns game. I'm actually trying to go to that game. I have a really good friend who's a Browns fan, and man, I don't want to go to that game and lose to the Browns. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Gosh, that's like the one game I just will be so upset if we lose. But hey, by that time, maybe they'll have a winning record, and Baker Mayfield will be the next Rookie of the Year. Who knows about the Browns team? They could turn around. They revamped. I mean, they're the paper champions this offseason, so we'll see how it goes. And I won't say paper champions, but they're like they spent a lot of money, which we all have history with. Lewis, 2015 Panthers Super Bowl, 2016 Falcons Super Bowl, 2017 Saints, 2018 Buccaneers, NFC South. Yeah, so you're kind of calling out the NFC South representation in the playoffs. Man, we've represented well, and sure, the Saints didn't get to the Super Bowl because of the crazy play against Minnesota, but who knows? They might have. I mean, I felt like they had a good enough team to beat that Philadelphia team, so who knows what would have happened if that Minnesota play didn't happen. But who cares, because that was an awesome play, and I was laughing hysterically when it happened, when they missed out. But yeah, it's the Buccaneers' turn, man. It's the Bucs' turn. I'm hopeful, as I always am, but I think we all have been battered and broken down to the point where we cannot expect anything. And one thing from minicamps that I am reading that is encouraging is the players' attitude. It seems like they are working harder and they are a lot more focused this year, which who knows if that's all hearsay. It's talking about feelings, so that's not measurable, right? But I'm willing to bet that all the hype from last year and then how last season went will end up being a good thing for this team, for this young team, because they've been humbled. they've been humbled. They have not proven anything, so now they're out to prove something. So that excites me. I think that will fuel this young team. Christian, I'm going to go to the Eagles game. If we win that game somehow, I will go crazy. Christian, I had just had a vision. Is that, by the way, is that away or is that home? I think that's at home. I had a vision of that first game. Do you guys remember that first game in 2003, the year after we won the Super Bowl? The Eagles opening up their brand new stadium after we had shut down the old one in the playoffs, and we blanked them 17-0. Joe Jurevicius had those circus catches in the end zone. I don't know if I've ever felt more satisfied. I don't think I've ever hated the Eagles as much since those two games because we won, guys. We won in that rivalry, and now it's no longer a rivalry, which I love. So yeah, there's still a little bit of hatred in my heart for Philadelphia, and if we win that, man, go nuts because it's always fun to beat Philly, especially now that they're defending Super Bowl champions. I'm interested to see if it's going to be Nick Foles or if it's going to be Carson Wentz. If Wentz will be able to bounce back, I doubt Wentz will be able to come back by then, but who knows? Okay, it is at home, so yeah, man, and that was obviously away that game, but that was the first game of the season, early in the season, just like this one. So, yeah. So, Lewis, you have season passes, man. If I remember correctly, Lewis, you joined our live stream, our post game live stream, after either on the way home or right after a game. Was it the Saints game? Anyway, I'm jealous of your season tickets, by the way. I live up in Atlanta, and I can only go to one game every once in a while. But one other thing I wanted to bring up real quick, guys, about minicamps is there is one player you can look at and draw judgments from, as we've learned in minicamps, and that is the kicker. So Catanzaro, so far what I've heard, has been nailing field goals, and that gives me hope. I still am a little nervous about Catanzaro because we just gave him all this money and it kind of came out of nowhere, and it seems like we're not going to give him much competition, so that worries the heck out of me. So I'm going to be watching the kicker very, very closely, both in mini camps and then when we jump ahead to training camp, because man, those training camps, they've been up and down, and sure enough, it translated in the season. When they were missing kicks in training camp, they were missing kicks during the season. Now, Nick Folk beat out Aguayo and was doing well, but he had some days where he was missing, and sure enough, he wasn't making it. And Catanzaro, however you want to say it, has had a year like Nick Folk just had. So I'm so nervous, you guys, about the kickers. Christian, yeah, I hate the Eagles too. I will watch our NFC Championship victory. I will watch our NFC Championship victory over them just to brighten my mood whenever I'm feeling down. Yeah, I will. Yeah, every once in a while I watch that Super Bowl DVD for the same reason. Life of Aiden, what's up, man? Go Bucs! I love it. Rick, imagine if we could slip up and start the season 2-0 against the Eagles and Saints. Oh, that's funny. Slip up and win. Somehow luck out and win those first two games. If we win those first two games, guys, imagine the hype in Tampa. We've been waiting for it, guys. We've been waiting for it. And I remember 2 years ago, I went to that season opener in Atlanta against the Falcons, and we were pretty hyped going into that season just locally because we knew we had the roster that could compete. And we won that first game. We ended up 9-7 that year, but we won that first game, guys. That feeling, being in the Mercedes-Benz new stadium, having beaten the Falcons, it was just such a warm feeling in my heart. So if we start 2-0, guys, man, the hype train will be on, and I'll be jumping on with it with you guys on that. Last night you watched our championship DVD. Yeah, man, that's the championship DVD. Is something I hold near and dear to my heart. I watch it every time I'm feeling down, which is often about this team. Okay, so unless you have anything else to say, guys, I'll ask you real quick. Do you have any thoughts about minicamps, any things you read? I know there's been some speculation about Jameis, but we kind of went over that in Mr. Bucs Nation stream and a little bit earlier today. So we're about to enter a dark period, and I want to remind you guys that, hey, these streams are going to be what you guys want to talk about. They may only be 10 minutes long, especially once we hit the dog days of summer where there's no football activity. Hopefully, there will be no arrests made, and so there will be nothing to talk about. Hopefully, there will be an announcement of a non-suspension for Jameis, or maybe a one-game, worst case. But yeah, thanks for joining me this time, guys. I mean, it's been a great activity, and we've had a lot to talk about. And it's just the beginning, guys. This is like, it's mini camps. You can't really draw any conclusions. Oh, JPP, thanks, Stephen Quintana. You brought up Jason Pierre-Paul, who finally showed up. I want to know, guys, are you worried about Pierre-Paul not showing up for the OTAs? I personally am not one to get into the kind of, I mean, it's not hype, but the kind of media circus that surrounds a certain player not showing up for OTAs or even mini camps, because usually it's a veteran. I mean, unless it is clearly a holdout, usually it's a veteran. He just doesn't want to do it, and it's not mandatory. It's fine with me. It's fine with me. But I will say with JPP, what worries me is that he's new to this team and he has to mesh with this locker room. And these guys clearly want to win, and they're shell shocked by guys like Chris Baker, who didn't take things seriously. So if I was an advisor to Pierre-Paul, I would have said, dude, get your butt down there, because just simply, I know you want to do your own workouts, and I know you get it. You've been through the ringer before. But there's something about chemistry, team chemistry, that I think is important. And I think it would have spoke volumes to the team had he shown up when he didn't need to. That's all I say about it. I'm sure he'll be fine. But that's the kind of thing I was iffy about with JPP. Evidently, Ronald Jones is making an impact during camp. Yeah, I mean, that's an example of players that you just can't judge during camp. Of course, he's going to look great because, he's not getting tackled, and it's pretty easy to hit holes. I mean, obviously, we like what we're seeing so far. And you guys who have been with me for a while know that I'm a little iffy on Rojo. Hopefully, he proves me a little wrong there. Love you, man. I'll be here for most streams. Thanks, Lewis. I appreciate it. Christian, I just want to say thank you for doing this YouTube channel. Love to talk with other Bucs fans so we can bask in our depression together. Yeah, and Rick adds on, misery loves company. Absolutely, guys. That's what this is for. I can't do a highly produced video every week, but I can do once a month. So hold on for those in-depth videos, guys, and then just join me every week if you just want to chat Bucs, man. That's what we're here for. Misery does love company, and we can commiserate together, and we can reminisce about the old times when we were winning, and the current times when we're all sad and depressed and jealous of our division rivals who are winning and we are not. So every Wednesday at 9 p.m. That's the plan right now, guys. Every Wednesday at 9 p.m. And follow me on Twitter at @theplayreaction to just get the updates. I will try to update my web banner, but there's just no promises I can get to that. I do have a full-time job. So thanks so much for joining, guys. This has been a really fun stream. I'll cut it off now. Usually there'll be probably about 30 minutes till we get into the season. Then they'll probably be longer. But thanks so much, Steven, Lewis, Rick, Game Dog. See you there, Lewis. If I didn't say already, Rick. But anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. Also, Mr. Bucs Nation. Appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next week. And let's continue the chat on Twitter. Until then, guys, go Bucs. Rick, fan since 76. You have some stuff to teach me, man. I've been a fan since 96. I think you got a whole 20 years on me. So be ready with some stories for me that we can chat about over the summer. All right, guys. Go Bucs. I'll see y'all next week.